Jack had never expected anything interesting to happen at the spaceport bar, but it was one of those nights where everything felt different. He sat at the corner booth, nursing his drink and listening to the sounds of laughter and chatter all around him. The dim lighting and the hum of 1,000 conversations made him feel like he was in the middle of a busy, living world. But honestly, Jack wasn't paying much attention to that. His mind was lost in thought, and his friends were teasing him about being single. "Come on, Jack. It's been months. Why not go out with someone?" One of his friends, Mike, said with a grin. "Yeah, you're all talk. Let's see you actually ask someone out." Another friend, Sarah, laughed. Jack rolled his eyes. "Fine, I'll ask," he said, leaning back in his seat. "Is there anyone who wants to marry me?" His words were loud, meant to be nothing more than a joke. He had no real intention of marrying anyone, especially not on a random evening like this. The room went quiet for a second. Everyone had heard him, and for a brief moment, Jack thought maybe his friends would make fun of him for being so dramatic. But something was different this time. He didn't expect anyone to answer. It's not like this. The bar door swung open with a heavy creak, and Jack's gaze lifted instinctively. He saw her. The woman who entered the bar looked nothing like the others. She was tall, her steps confident but silent, almost like she was gliding. Her skin was pale, as though the sunlight had never touched it. Dark, long hair flowed behind her, framing her sharp features. But what really caught his attention were her eyes. They were a deep crimson red, unusual and unnerving. They locked onto Jack's without hesitation, and Jack felt a chill run down his spine. He looked away, thinking he was imagining things. But then she walked right toward him, her steps sure, deliberate. The entire bar seemed to grow quiet, as if the air around her had thickened. "Did you call for a bride, human?" she asked, her voice smooth, like honey, but with an edge of something dark. Jack blinked. His mouth went dry. "What?" he asked, barely able to believe what he was hearing. The woman didn't smile. She just stood in front of him, still staring, with those red eyes that seemed to see right through him. "I heard your words," she continued, her gaze never leaving his. "You called for a partner? Bride? A mate?" His friends, who had been joking around moments before, suddenly fell silent. Mike raised an eyebrow, while Sarah stared in wide-eyed shock. Jack shook his head, trying to laugh it off. "Look, lady, it was just a joke." I heard." "You," she repeated, "and I have come." The bar seemed to hold its breath. Jack swallowed hard, feeling his heart race. This wasn't what he had expected. Not in the slightest. Who are you?" Jack asked, his voice shaky. Was she for real? Was this some kind of prank? The woman stood taller, her presence dominating the room. She finally smiled, but it was a cold, knowing smile. "I am Celine," she said, her name echoing in Jack's mind. "And you, Jack, are the one I have been waiting for." Jack's stomach churned. How did she know his name? What was going on? Glanced at his friends, hoping they'd step in, but they were just as stunned as he was. "Listen, I think you've got the wrong person," Jack said, trying to back away, but there was nowhere to go. He was trapped in the booth, and Selena's gaze held him in place. "I didn't mean anything by it. It was just a joke." Selena's eyes never left him. "Jokes do not carry such power, Jack," she said softly, yet firmly. "You called for someone to join you, and I have come to answer." Jack tried to laugh, though it came out weak. Okay, this is funny. You're really committed to the prank. I get it." He motioned to his friends. "You all can stop now." But they didn't laugh. They didn't even speak. Instead, Celine continued to watch him, her gaze unwavering. "This is not a prank, Jack. I am here for a reason. You have summoned me, and I will not leave until my purpose is fulfilled." Jack's heart raced faster. The air felt colder. "What purpose?" he managed to ask, his voice barely a whisper. "The one you called for," Celine answered, her voice low and deep. "Marriage, a joining of our kinds." Jack's confusion deepened, and for a moment he thought he might be dreaming. Or maybe he had been knocked unconscious earlier in the day, and now his mind was playing tricks on him. But before he could say another word, Selene reached out and placed her hand on his. It was cold, ice cold, and it sent a shiver through him. Come with me, Jack. The answers you seek lie with me, and you will join me whether you are ready or not. Jack stared at her hand, feeling the odd mix of fear and curiosity wash over him. What was this about? Who was she? What was she talking about when she said joining? He couldn't understand. It all but one thing was clear. This was no ordinary woman, and his joke had just taken a very strange turn. Jack's mind was spinning. The woman in front of him, Selene, stood with an air of certainty that made everything around him seem surreal. His eyes kept darting back to her. She wasn't like anyone he had ever seen before. Her beauty was unsettling. But it was her presence, her aura, that had him frozen. It wasn't just that she was tall or strikingly pale, it was something deeper. Her red eyes held a secret, and those eyes seemed to know him, like they could read the deepest parts of his mind. Listen, Jack said, trying to sound calm, though his voice wavered. I don't know what this is about, but I'm not looking for anything serious. It was just a joke. A stupid joke. Selene's gaze softened, but only slightly. You misunderstand, Jack. This is no joke. I've waited a long time for this moment. Jack looked around the room, hoping someone would speak up or intervene. His friends, still sitting at the table, were wide-eyed, and no one was making a sound. It felt like everyone was holding their breath, waiting for something to happen. What do you mean? Jack asked, his heart beating faster with every passing. Second, you've been waiting for me? Selene nodded slowly. Yes, I have waited for you. I was sent to find you, and now that I have, I must tell you what it means. Jack shook his head. This is crazy. You got the wrong person. No, Selene replied, her voice calm and firm. I have the right person. You, Jack, are the one I need. Jack wanted to back away, but he couldn't. Her presence seemed to hold him in place.
Ow.
How could she know his name? How could she have been sent to find him? I don't understand, Jack said, his voice barely above a whisper. Why me? I didn't ask for this. I didn't even think it was real. Selene tilted her head slightly, her eyes never leaving his. You called out for a partner, Jack. You called out for someone to join you, and I am here to answer that call. Jack felt a chill run down his spine. It was like his joke had somehow turned into reality. But that didn't make any sense. He had just said it out of frustration, had meant it. What do you mean by join me? Jack asked, confused and afraid. I'm just a regular guy. Why would you need me? Selene took a step closer, her movements fluid and graceful. I am not from your world, Jack. I come from a race of beings far older than you can imagine, my kind. We have been cursed for centuries. We are immortal, but we cannot form lasting bonds with others of our kind. We cannot live freely, nor... Can we love freely? Jack blinked, trying to process her words. Cursed? What do you mean? Selena's eyes deepened in color, turning a darker shade of red. My race is called the Varelians. We were once rulers of the galaxies, beings of great power and influence, but we made a terrible mistake, one that led to our curse. We became bound to each other in a way that prevented us from forming lasting relationships. Our bonds are broken. Our kind is fading, dying. Jack shook his head again. He wasn't sure if he should laugh, but nothing about this situation seemed funny anymore. Why me? He asked, his voice trembling. Why did you choose me? I don't even know what you're talking about.
What?
I'm just a guy trying to survive in a universe full of chaos. Selene didn't move, but her voice softened. That is why, Jack, you are a human. You are the one who can help me and my people. We have been searching for a human mate for centuries, someone who can break the curse. The one who can join with us and give us what we have lost, the ability to love, to bond, and to be free once again. Jack's heart skipped a beat. You're saying, I'm the one who can break your curse. Selene nodded slowly. Yes, you are the one who will restore us. Through you, we can regain our freedom. Jack tried to process this new reality, but his mind was racing. None of this made sense. How was it possible that he, of all people, could be the key to something so important? He had no special abilities. He wasn't even looking for a relationship. And now, this strange woman, who claimed to be an alien vampire, was telling him that his casual, joking words had somehow led to this moment. "What do you want from me?" Jack asked, his voice finally steady. "I want you, Jack," Celine replied, her eyes narrowing. "I need you. Only a true bond between us will break the curse. And only you can give me what I have been searching for." Jack swallowed hard. He didn't know what to say. He wasn't sure he even believed her. But the way she spoke, with such certainty, made it hard to ignore. "Are you asking me to marry you?" Jack blurted out, half laughing but feeling sick to his stomach at the thought. Celine didn't flinch. "Yes, that is what I am asking." Jack's mind reeled. "But I don't know anything about you. I don't even know if I can trust you." "Understand your doubts," Celine said, her tone gentle but unwavering. "But I would not have come here if I didn't believe you were the one. You are the only one who can help us." Jack's head spun as he tried to process everything she was telling him. He had gone from joking about marriage to being asked to save an entire race of vampires. It didn't make sense. It was too much. But looking into Selena's eyes, he saw something real, something deep. He couldn't deny that she believed every word she was saying. "Give me time to think," Jack said, finally finding his voice again. "I need time to figure this out." Selena's expression softened and she nodded. "You have all the time you need, Jack. But know this. If you do not choose to join with me, the curse will remain, and my people will fade into nothing." Jack stared at her for a long moment, uncertain of what to do. But one thing was clear. His life had just changed forever. The following day, Jack found himself in a state of confusion. His usual life had been upended by a strange, powerful woman named Celine, who claimed that he was the key to breaking a curse that had haunted her race for centuries. The whole thing felt like a dream more, a nightmare. But when he woke up, Celine was still there, waiting for him with a quiet intensity that made it hard to ignore. "I've made my decision," Jack said that morning, his voice more sure than he felt. "I'll go with you, but I still don't understand everything. I don't know if I can help you, but I want to learn more. If this curse is real, I need to know what I'm getting into." Celine looked at him with an unreadable expression, then nodded. "You will understand in time, Jack. Come with me, and I will show you everything." She led him through the spaceport, her presence still causing heads to turn as they walked. Jack felt his heart racing, but it wasn't just fear. There was something about her, something he couldn't quite explain, that kept him from turning back. It was as if she had a pull over him, something he couldn't resist. They reached a secluded hangar, where Selena's ship awaited. Jack's breath caught when he saw it. The ship wasn't like any spacecraft he had seen before. It was sleek, dark, and mysterious, its surface shimmering in a way that looked almost unnatural. It looked like something out of a science fiction movie, only it was real. "Is this your ship?" Jack asked, almost in awe. He had seen many ships in his life, but nothing like this. It looked like it belonged to another time, another world. "Yes," Celine answered simply. "This is my vessel. It is not from your world. I will take you to my home." Jack hesitated for a moment, but then followed her up the ship's ramp. As he stepped inside, the interior took him by surprise. It wasn't like the cramped, functional ships he was used to. The inside of Selena's ship felt alive, as though the walls themselves were breathing. Soft, glowing lights illuminated the sleek, futuristic control panels, and the air smelled faintly of something floral and strange. "Welcome aboard," Celine said, her voice calm as she moved to the controls. "This ship will take us where we need to go. We will learn more about my people on the way." Jack was about to ask another question when the ship's engines hummed to life, and they began to lift off the ground. The view from the cockpit was breathtaking. Below, the spaceport grew smaller and smaller, and above, the stars beckoned with their infinite mystery as they traveled through the stars. Jack looked at Celine, his mind still racing. She was calm, composed, but Jack could tell there was something she wasn't telling him. He didn't fully understand why he was here, why he was even going along with this. But there was a part of him that was too curious to turn back. "What happens once we get to your home?" Jack asked, breaking the silence. Celine glanced at him, her red eyes reflecting the dim light of the ship. "Once we arrive, you will meet my people. They have been waiting for the chosen one. You, Jack, are that one." Jack felt a knot tighten. In his stomach, "I'm just a regular guy. I don't even know what I'm supposed to do." "You are more than you think," Celine said, her voice barely above a whisper. "You've been chosen for a reason. You will help us break the curse. But it is not just about power. It's about connection. You and I, we are meant to join. Our bond will restore what has been lost." Jack didn't know how to respond. There was too much to take in, too much to understand. But one thing was clear. Celine believed in what she was saying with every fiber of her being. He had no idea if he could truly help her, but he couldn't ignore the pull, the strange sense of destiny that seemed to hang in the air. As the hours passed, Jack's thoughts continued to swirl, but he kept his questions to himself. He needed time to think, to process everything that was happening. The ship hummed smoothly through space, and Jack had no idea where they were going or how long it would take to get there. Eventually, Celine stood and turned to face him. "Should rest, Jack. We still have a long journey ahead, and you will need your strength." "Don't know how to rest," Jack admitted. "I'm not sure how to relax with all this certainty." "You will find your way," she said, a small smile tugging at her lips. "Rest your mind. When you wake, you will understand more." Jack hesitated, but then nodded. He didn't have much choice. He walked over to a soft padded seat and sank into it. The gentle hum of the ship made him feel strangely calm despite everything. The stars outside the window twinkled like tiny distant beacons. And for the first time since this whole crazy situation began, Jack allowed himself to close his eyes. But as he drifted off to sleep, a thought lingered in the back of his mind. How was he supposed to help break a curse he didn't understand? Was it even possible? And what would happen if he couldn't live up to Selena's expectations? In his sleep, Jack dreamed of strange, dark worlds, places he had never seen before, inhabited by beings like Celine who watched him with their glowing red eyes. In his dream, he saw himself standing before a great, powerful being, his hands reaching out to a glowing artifact. The moment he touched it, the entire world around him seemed to shatter and reform suddenly. Jack woke with a start, his heart pounding in his chest. He sat up, gasping for air, his mind racing. What had just happened? Was it a dream, or had he seen a glimpse of something more? "Are you all right, Jack?" Selena's voice broke through his thoughts. He turned to look at her. Her eyes filled with concern, but Jack couldn't shake the feeling that something important was happening, something he wasn't fully ready for, but couldn't escape. "I'm fine," Jack said, though he wasn't sure if he believed it himself. Celine nodded, her gaze turning back to the stars ahead. "We're almost there. We'll see everything soon." Jack sat back in his seat, his mind racing with questions. He wasn't sure where they were going or what awaited him, but one thing was certain. His life had changed forever, and nothing would ever be the same. The days passed as Jack traveled with Celine, growing more and more accustomed to the quiet hum of her ship. The stars outside were endless, and the ship moved through space as though it was part of the darkness itself. Jack's thoughts often turned to what Celine had said, how he was the key to breaking the curse that had bound her people for centuries. The more he thought about it, the more confused he became. How could he, a simple human, help break such an ancient and powerful curse? And why had it all happened because of a joke? Celine had been patient with him, answering his questions when she could. But there was always something she held back, something she wasn't telling him. Jack could feel it, but every time he tried to ask, she would smile and change the subject, or tell him that he would understand everything soon enough. One evening, as they sat in the ship's small dining area, Jack spoke up again. "Celine, I don't get it. You say I'm the one who can help you, but what exactly do I need to do? What's the curse? How does it all work?" Celine set her drink down and looked at him with her piercing red eyes. "The curse is more complicated than you realize, Jack. It's not just about power. It's about a bond that cannot be broken unless two souls truly connect. That is why I need you." Jack frowned, feeling more confused than ever. So this is all about bonding. How do I even do that? You will understand soon, she said softly, but her voice carried a note of finality that made Jack feel like she was holding something back. He was starting to wonder if he would ever really get the whole story. Just then, the ship's lights flickered. Jack looked up, a chill running down his spine. "What was that?" he asked, his voice tense. Celine's expression shifted, her calm demeanor replaced by something colder, more focused. She stood up quickly, walking to the control panel with purposeful strides. "We are not alone," she said quietly, her voice sharp with urgency. "The Vorath are here." Shaq's heart skipped a beat. "The Vorath. You told me about them? They're your enemies, right?" Selena nodded, her eyes narrowing. "They are the ones who cursed my people, are the ones who want to keep us in chains. They know you are with me. They will stop at nothing to destroy us both." Jack felt a cold knot form in his stomach. "What do we do?" Celine didn't answer immediately. She was typing commands into the control panel, her fingers moving quickly. "We fight," she said, her voice steady. "But we cannot let them capture you. They will use you against us." Before Jack could respond, the ship shook violently. He grabbed the nearest chair to steady himself, his heart racing. The lights flickered again, and he could hear the deep hum of the ship's engines struggling against the pressure outside. Celine turned to him, her face serious. "Get to the weapons bay. We'll need your help." Jack was about to argue, but Selena's eyes silenced him. He could see the urgency in her gaze, the weight of everything they were facing. Without another word, he nodded and headed toward the weapons bay. As Jack ran down the narrow corridor, his mind raced. He had never fought anyone in his life, let alone alien invaders. But if Celine was right and the Vorath were here to destroy them, he had no choice. He had to do something. He couldn't just sit back and wait to be captured. When he reached the weapons bay, found Celine already there, her long fingers adjusting the controls on a massive gun. The weapon looked like something out of a science fiction novel, sleek, powerful, and deadly. Jack felt his stomach tighten at the sight of it. "Celine," Jack said, his voice strained. "I don't know how to use this." "I will teach you quickly," she said, her voice calm. "You must learn fast, Jack. We do not have time." She moved toward him, showing him how to activate the weapon and aim it at targets. Jack struggled to keep up, but he did his best, trying to focus despite the tension that was building. Ship shook again, harder this time, and the lights went out completely. For a moment, everything was pitch black. Jack's pulse quickened as he fumbled for the controls. "We're under attack," Celine said. "Get ready." Jack could hear the sound of something crashing against the outside of the ship. It was followed by a loud bang, and the entire ship seemed to shudder with the force. The Vorath had arrived. "I need you to fire when I say," Celine instructed, her voice sharp and full of authority. Jack nodded, trying to steady his breath. He had no idea what he was doing, but he trusted Celine. He had to. Suddenly, the ship's emergency lights flickered on, casting an eerie red glow over everything. Jack could see the shapes of alien ships surrounding them, their dark, jagged forms blocking out the stars. Selena's eyes flashed with a fierce determination. "Hold on tight," she said, her voice colder now. "You're not going down without a fight." Jack felt a wave of fear rush over him, but he pushed it down. He had no choice. He had to help Celine, or they would both be lost. "Fire," Celine shouted. Jack pulled the trigger. The weapon fired with a powerful, deafening roar. The blast hit one of the Vorath ships, and it exploded in a burst of light and flame. Jack's eyes widened in shock at the force of the explosion. He'd never seen anything like it. "Again," Celine commanded. Jack fired again, and another Vorath ship was hit, its engines sputtering and dying as it drifted away into space. The battle was far from over. The Vorath ships were relentless, and their firepower was overwhelming. But Jack and Celine fought back, their combined strength starting to turn the tide. As the battle raged on, Jack's mind raced. He still didn't fully understand what was happening. But he knew one thing. He wasn't going to let Celine face this alone. He couldn't. Whatever the curse was, whatever their future held, Jack knew that he had to be part of it, if only to protect the woman who had come to him, claiming that he was the one who could save them both. The battle had ended, but Jack couldn't shake the tension in his chest. The Vorath's ships were gone, drifting helplessly in space, but their presence had left a mark. It wasn't just the explosions and gunfire that had rattled him, it was the realization that Celine and her people were in constant danger. And it seemed like the threat was never truly over. Jack sat in the ship's quiet common area, his mind still racing from the attack. Celine was at the control panel, her face unreadable as she navigated them away from the wreckage of the battle. The silence between them was heavy, full of unspoken words. Jack had so many questions, but he didn't know where to start. He looked at her, the woman who had changed his life in the most unexpected way. She was beautiful, powerful, and mysterious. But there was so much about her that he didn't understand. What was the curse? Why had it fallen to him to break it? Was this bond between them real? Or was it just part of some grand plan? After what felt like an eternity, Celine turned to face him. Her red eyes glinted in the dim light, and for the first time, Jack saw a trace of vulnerability in them. "I know this is a lot for you to take in, Jack," she said softly. "But I need you to understand something important. The curse is not just about power or control. It's about freedom, my people. We've been trapped for centuries, forced to live in isolation. We cannot form lasting connections. Our bonds break as easily as they are formed." Jack nodded slowly, trying to wrap his mind around what she was saying. "But how does it work? How do I fit into all of this?" Celine took a deep breath, her gaze drifting to the stars outside the ship's window. "The curse is a result of a long-forgotten war. My people once ruled vast parts of the galaxy, but we made enemies. The Vorath were the ones who cursed us, binding us to our own kind in a way that made it impossible for us to truly live. The curse can only be broken when someone from outside our race joins with us. A human. Someone like you." Jack's heart raced at her words. "But why me? I'm just a normal guy. I don't know anything about your people or your history." "You're the key because you are different," Celine said, her voice steady. "Your kind can bond with anyone, and that is what we need. The curse can only be lifted by a connection that is pure, something that goes beyond the bond of blood. That's why it must be you." Jack swallowed, feeling a wave of uncertainty wash over him. "And if I say no, what happens then?" Celine's expression hardened, but there was still a hint of sadness in her eyes. "If you say no, the curse will remain. My people will continue to live in isolation, unable to break free. We will never be able to connect with anyone. We will be alone forever." Jack looked down at his hands, trying to make sense of everything. This was too much. He had come into this expecting an ordinary life, but now he was being asked to make a decision that could affect the future of an entire species. He didn't feel like the right person for the job. How could he be? He wasn't a hero. He wasn't anything special. But as he sat there, the weight of the decision pressing down on him, Jack realized that he couldn't walk away. He didn't know what the future held, but he knew one thing. He couldn't let Celine and her people suffer forever. He couldn't turn his back on them when they needed him the most. "I don't understand everything," Jack said, looking up at Celine, "but I know I can't leave you like this. If there's even a chance I can help, then I have to try." Celine's expression softened, and for the first time, Jack saw a flicker of relief in her eyes. She stepped closer to him, her hand reaching out to touch his. "You don't know what this means to us, Jack," she said, her voice quiet but full of emotion. "You've given us hope. I have waited for someone like you for so long." Jack nodded, taking a deep breath. "I don't know if I'm the right person, but I'm willing to try. I'll do whatever it takes." Celine smiled, a small, genuine smile that made something inside Jack stir. "Thank you," she said softly. "You don't realize how much this means to me." Jack felt the weight of her words settle in his chest. He wasn't sure what the future held, but he knew one thing. He had made the right choice. He wasn't just doing this for Celine and her people. He was doing it for himself too. There was something about her that made him want to be better, to be more than just the man he had been before. "Where do we go from here?" Jack asked, looking around the ship. The future was still uncertain, but now, for the first time, it felt like he had a purpose. Celine turned back to the control panel, her hands moving gracefully over the buttons. We go to the heart of my people's home. There we will perform the bond. The ceremony must be done in the place where the curse began. It will not be easy, but together we will break it. Jack nodded, his mind still racing, but his heart felt lighter. He didn't know exactly how this was going to work or what was going to happen once they arrived, but he was ready. He had made his choice, and now there was no turning back. As the ship sailed through the stars, Jack felt the weight of the journey ahead. There were still dangers to face, and the Vorath were not the only threat. But for the first time, Jack felt a sense of purpose. He wasn't just a man caught in a strange situation anymore. He was part of something bigger, and as he looked over at Celine, sitting calmly at the controls, he knew one thing for sure. Whatever happened, they would face it together. The ship moved smoothly through the vastness of space, its course set toward the heart of the Varelian homeworld. Jack sat in the common area, his hands resting on his knees, his mind still swirling with everything that had happened in the past. Few days he had made the choice to help Celine and her people, but now that they were closer to the place where the curse began, the reality of his decision was starting to hit him harder than ever. Celine had told him little about what to expect. Once they arrived, she had spoken of a ceremony of bond, but she hadn't given him any details about what that would entail. Jack didn't know if he was ready for it. Could he really become the key to breaking an ancient curse? And if he was, what would happen afterward? What would Celine expect from him? There were still so many questions, and Jack knew that he didn't have all the answers. But one thing he did know was that he couldn't back down now. He had made his choice, and there was no turning back. The ship jolted suddenly, pulling Jack out of his thoughts. He gripped the armrest as the entire vessel shook, the sound of alarms blaring through the ship. His heart raced. What's happening? He called out, rushing toward the control panel where Celine was already standing, her hands moving quickly over the controls. "We've been detected," she said, her voice calm but tense. "The Vorath are close. They must have followed us." Jack felt a cold shiver run down his spine. "They're still after us? They'll stop at nothing to prevent us from completing the bond," Celine replied, her voice tight with urgency. "We must get to the heart of the planet before they catch us." Jack nodded, his pulse quickening. He had a feeling that the moment they arrived, things would only get worse. The Vorath weren't going to let them succeed. Jack wasn't sure they had the strength to face them again. Celine's red eyes glowed in the dim light of the cockpit, and Jack saw a flicker of determination in her gaze. "Stay close, Jack. The bond requires our connection to be strong. If we are separated now, everything could be lost." Jack nodded, his mind still racing. He wasn't sure what she meant by the bond being strong, but he didn't have time to question it now. He had to help her. He had to be ready. As the ship raced toward the planet, Jack could hear the sound of weapons fire in the distance. The Vorath had arrived. The battle was about to begin. Selena's voice broke through the chaos. "We're almost there. Once we reach the surface, we'll make our way to the ancient temple where the curse began. That's where the bond must be formed." The ship shuddered as another round of fire struck the hull. Jack gripped the seat, his heart pounding in his chest. "How are we going to survive this?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. "We fight," Celine replied simply, her voice steady. "We do what we must. I cannot lose you, Jack. Not now." Jack glanced at her, meeting her gaze. There was a depth of emotion in her eyes that he hadn't seen before. He had never known someone who was so determined, so ready to risk everything. For the first time, he understood just how much was at stake. The ship broke through the atmosphere, the blue and green of the planet's surface becoming visible beneath them. Jack's stomach lurched as they descended rapidly, the planet growing larger with each passing second. "We're landing," Celine said, her voice calm despite the danger. "Prepare yourself, Jack." The ship hit the ground with a heavy thud, shaking as the landing gear took the brunt of the impact.
Jack barely
had time to steady himself before the doors slid open, revealing the dense, foggy landscape outside. It looked ancient, overgrown with thick vines and trees, the air thick with moisture and mystery. Celine led the way, moving swiftly, her body a blur of motion. Jack followed closely behind, his heart still pounding in his chest. The temple, she had said, that was where the bond would happen. But the closer they got to their destination, the more Jack could feel the weight of everything pressing down on him. This is it, Selene said, her voice barely above a whisper as they reached the entrance of the temple. The structure was massive, its stone walls covered in strange symbols and carvings. Worn smooth by the centuries, Jack felt a strange sense of awe as they walked inside, the cool air of the temple surrounding them. The interior was filled with large, empty spaces, the only light coming from the soft glow of the ship's landing lights outside. This is where it all began, Selene said, turning to face him. This is where the curse took root, and this is where it will end. Jack swallowed hard, his stomach in knots. How do we do this? How do I... You just need to trust me, Selene interrupted gently, her eyes softening as she looked at him. The bond will form naturally between us, Jack. It's not something you can force. All you need to do is be willing. Jack nodded, his hands shaking. I'm ready, he said, though his voice wasn't as sure as he wanted it to. Be! Selene moved toward him, her hand reaching out. Slowly, she took his hand in hers, her cold touch sending a shiver through him. Her eyes locked onto his, and for a moment everything around them seemed to fade away. The only thing that mattered was the connection between them, the strange bond that had been building between them since the moment they first met. As they stood there, the air around them seemed to change. The temple seemed to come alive, its ancient walls vibrating with energy. A hum filled the room, and Jack felt a warmth spread through his chest, a feeling of peace and calm that he had never known before. This is it, Selene whispered. We are breaking the curse. In that moment, everything clicked. Jack understood what she meant. The bond wasn't just physical, it was emotional, spiritual. It was the connection between them, the trust, the willingness to help each other, to give themselves to something bigger than themselves. As the light in the temple brightened, Jack felt something shift inside him. The bond had formed. The curse was breaking, and for the first time since this all began, he truly understood. His role in all of this, they were going to make it. Together.